Welcome back to JB Reviews. I don't have to tell you which truck is leveled on 35s. You can pretty much tell. And I figured this would be a good video for anyone looking to build their truck. I have a few friends who have 37s actually. One of my buddies, Jarrett, we haven't talked in a while. I gotta link up with you again. And one of my buddies, James, he has a King Ranch that's done up on 37s. They both have the mega cab dualies though, but this is a good example of just how big 35s are when you see them next to like a smaller tire. I'll tell you the size of that one in a second. But also, if you see it by itself, 35s don't look that big. Like, they don't look that big on the truck, guys. But let's go ahead and jump back up front. I want to show you guys just really quickly a side-by-side comparison if you do decide you want to get a taller tire. Now, most people know that Rams have been running these Nexen tires for, my goodness, a long time. And most guys, the first thing they'll do is kick these off quick. This tire is going to be a 235 80/17. Now, that's 31.8 inches tall, 9.3 inches wide. Now, if you're someone who does not want these Nexens, Ram does offer a Goodyear tire from the factory. So if you're building your truck from the factory and you don't want to have to deal with taking these off and putting a whole new set of tires on, it's a $995 option. These tires, they just wear out really fast, and I've been told they're prone to, explosions. And it doesn't help that these tires are made in North Korea. Now, if you get the Goodyear, they're going to be the exact same size as these. They don't make them a little bit bigger. Another tire size I've seen quite often, if you don't want something too aggressive like this, you could go to a 255/80, which is basically like a 33-inch tall tire. And it's just 10 inches wide, so you get a little bit more width, a little bit more height, and it's like the perfect fit if you don't want to go with a spacer out back, because if you're running these tires here, you're going to need a spacer. Now, I don't know who owns this truck. I'm just recording someone's truck, and hopefully they're okay with it. But yes, these are going to be Nitto Ridge Grappler tires. I've owned these tires and they last a long time. This size is a 35 by 11.5 17 LT, and this is going to be a 10 ply tire. Now, I kind of know why they went with this tire instead of a 37, and I'll explain it why here in a second. But here is the capacity for the tires: 3,970 pounds of capacity, 80 psi. So if you were to go to a 37 by 12.5 or even 13.5, those tires typically max out for psi around 65, I believe. And some guys just don't feel comfortable running the tire pressure that low, so they rather stay as close to factory spec. So if you go 35s, even the 12.5s, I like to run at 80 psi, and you get 3,970 pounds of capacity. Although I will say 37 by 12.5s, depending on the brand, does give you like 4,080 pounds of capacity each tire at that max 65. But again, if you're getting a Chevy or GMC, I don't think that you can recalibrate the tire pressure monitoring system, so you'll get an error message if you don't run it at that max 65 psi, which sucks. Now, you guys can see this truck is leveled, and that's probably either, I would say that's probably a 2.5 inch level, I would say. And you guys can really see just how much taller this truck is too. Like, this looks like it's a lowrider compared to this one over here. And let's go ahead and measure. I'll measure from the wheel well on both sides, and then we'll make our way out back. So from the floor to the fender here, it's about 40 inches, or you can use 9.5. So 40 to the ground to here, and then 9.5. But from the ground here to the fender, that's about 44. Hold on. Let's call that 44 inches. And 11 1/8 from the tire to the fender flare. Now this truck does have fender flares, the other one does not, so that could throw me off just a little bit. That's why I measured in 2 spots for you. Now you guys can see the difference in the mirrors here. Look how much taller this truck is, and you can tell by, well, hopefully you can see with the running boards, like look how much taller this truck sits. So obviously this is the negative with running these lifts and bigger tires. It's going to take you more to get inside the truck, and that's a good thing because it's definitely taller. Now out back, if you are looking to run a bigger tire, this is one thing you cannot fix, because you guys see there, you're gonna have a little bit more poke, and some guys are running, you know, 12.5. I've even seen 13.5-inch wide tires on the stock wheels, which I don't really recommend. That's really wide for a 6 wide wheel. But this truck does need a spacer. Now that's probably a, I'll show you the spacers online, but it's probably a 2 or 3 inch spacer. And the reason why some people go that big, even for like a tire that's 11.5, is because if that spacer is not wide enough, you're gonna have to cut your studs. And that's why I went ahead on my Chevy and did the 37 by 12.5, because I figured I was gonna get the longer or the wider spacer, which meant there was no need for me to get a smaller tire. So yeah, but yeah, that spacer gives you more than enough space between the tires, because if you add 3,000 pounds back here, these tires are going to squish and they could come into contact, which will create heat, which means you could have a blowout. But yeah, look at the girth of these tires, my goodness. Hopefully you guys can see. Here's the 35s versus the 32s, or 31.8 inch tall tires. Now this truck over here does have the high output, and I can tell because of the brakes. I don't know if it has a 410 or the standard 373. If you are planning to run taller tires on a dually, 342 now comes standard. You cannot upgrade that to a 373 or 410. Hopefully Ram changes that in the future. But now that you have an 8-speed, you don't really need the lower gearing in that rear axle. So yeah, I think that if I were to get a dually in the future, I would still run the 37s. And I would go 12.5 wide for sure. I mean, look at the sheer girth of just 11.5 tall tire. That looks so good. This is what you call that bubble look. And I like the bubble look. It looks good. It's just something different for dualies. You don't really see dualies like this. And when you see them rolling, they look insane. And last time for stock. Hope you guys liked the video. Last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys the spacers, and then that'll pretty much end this video. So this is the website, wheeladapter.com. Now on their homepage, it does show dually adapters, and it doesn't show the RAM. So what you have to do is you have to go back to the homepage, or you can just stay where you were, go to wheel spacers, and then go to Dodge. And they have 2. So this is probably for the older trucks, but for 2019 and newer, they have the 8 by 200 millimeter, and they have these sizes. Now just take note here. You must trim the factory wheel studs for wheel spacers less than 2 inches thick. So just go with either this one or the next one up. The 1.5 to 2 inch is $580 a pair. And then 2.1 to 2.5, $605, and then $630 for the largest one here. But yeah, these are really good, American company. And if you do plan on running those wider tires, this is definitely the way to go. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure your bell notifications are on. See you guys soon.